This meeting is being live streamed, and I just have to silence so that the YouTube doesn't bounce back at us. Okay, great. And now I just have to find out. I have to find my way back to you. This is a whole new experience for me. Where, Dan, could you please help me find out where? Oh, there he is. There is everybody. Okay. Now, where's the? I'm on someone's whole other computer that I've never been on before, so this is a new experience for me.
You had it before. You had it. You had. I saw it.
Right. Okay. Here's the book. Great. Okay. Can you see the great sage? You can see it?
Yeah, it's right there on the screen.
Okay. Great. So before we start, I just want to give Dan a reference point to what we're.
You had it. You had. I saw it.
To what we're reading. Right. Okay. Here's the book. Great.
What? How'd you do this now?
I have no idea. This is overwhelming.
Let's go
there.
Okay.
I need to close this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right. Can you see it now?
Yeah, they see the screen.
Perfect.
But I'd just like you to be here for the reading. Can you be here?
I was just going to.
Do you have a chair to pull up, please?
Yes.
And so I just wanted to get Rupanuga Prabhu. Did you want to say something, Rupanuga, to Dan?
Dan,
just brief introduction.
You said he joined in 1969? Huh?
No, I said that Tejas Prabhu joined in 1969, but you came in 66.
Yeah, but Tejas was with me in 68 in Buffalo.
No, the end of 69.
End of 69? Okay. Came later.
Okay. So could you please explain Rupanuga briefly before we start reading, just so that Dan has a reference point here. Who is Narada? I told them a little story earlier. I started to, but I just wanted to have a reference point because Narada is coming to visit the homes of Lord Krishna. So can you say something who Narada is?
Yeah, Narada is the most important devotee in the universe. Narada is called the transcendental spaceman. He can fly. He can travel anywhere in the material and spiritual worlds. So he has many disciples in our line. I don't know what else to say about Narada. This explains a lot about him here in this pastime.
Okay, so would you like to begin, and we'll take turns reading a paragraph each.
Okay. The great sage Narada heard that Lord Krishna had married 16,000 wives after he had killed the demon Nakasura, sometimes called him Bhaumasura. Narada became astonished that Lord Krishna had expanded himself into 16,000 forms and married these wives simultaneously in different palaces. Being inquisitive as to how Krishna was managing his household affairs with so many wives, Narada decided to see these pastimes and so set out to visit Krishna's different homes. When Narada arrived in Dwarka, he saw that the gardens and parks were full of various flowers of different colors, and orchards that were overloaded with a variety of fruits. Beautiful birds were chirping, and peacocks were delightfully crowing. There were tanks and ponds full of blue and red lotus flowers, and some of these sites were filled with varieties of lilies. The lakes were full of nice swans and cranes whose voices resounded everywhere. In the city, there were as many as 900,000 great palaces built of first-class marble with gates and doors made of silver. The posts of the houses and palaces were bedecked with jewels such as touchstones, sapphires, and emeralds, and the floors gave off a beautiful luster. The highways, lanes, streets, crossings, and marketplaces were all beautifully decorated. The whole city was full of residential homes, assembly houses, and temples, all of different architectural beauty. All of this made Dwarka a glowing city. The big avenues, crossings, lanes, streets, and also the thresholds of every residential house were very clean. On both sides of every path, there were bushes, and at regular intervals, there were large trees that shaded the avenues so that the sunshine would not bother the passersby.
Thank you. I just want to check in with Dan here. Is there anything that you just heard that you'd like a little clarification on, or?
I think I'm just getting a feel of the story.
Okay.
No, I'm okay.
Yeah, Dan was asking earlier about when Krishna was at Kurukshetra with Arjuna, and I was saying to him that to the best of my knowledge, Lord Krishna never leaves Krishna Loka, but that the Krishna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra is Krishna's incarnation as Vishnu. So,
No, he's Vasudev. He's Vasudev.
Vasudev. Yes. Vasudev Krishna.
In the battle of Kurukshetra, he's Vasudev.
But Vasudev, is that not an incarnation of Krishna?
It's an expansion.
Expansion, okay. And so this Krishna that's in Dwarka with 16,000 palaces here, is this the original Krishna, or this is Vasudev Krishna also?
I believe it is, but we have to
Okay.
be careful about the original. It's hard to understand that the original can expand originally and stay original. So this is his mood as Vasudev is still Krishna. But Krishna always makes it clear that he never leaves Vrindavan. He never leaves the gopis and gopas, Mother Yasoda. But this pastime we're discussing here is in Gokula. Goloka is the spiritual world, spiritual sky, spiritual planet, Goloka Vrindavan. But here it's manifested in this material world as Gokula. And there's some pastimes in Gokula that don't exist in Goloka, such as Lord Krishna's children pastimes, child pastimes do not exist in Krishna Loka. They exist only here in Gokula Loka. And that's what we've saw. That was reflected in Vrindavan. It was manifested in Vrindavan, where these pastimes took place. Similarly, Dwarka was also manifested when Krishna was here. And this being described here, that Lord Narada is visiting Dwarka as it was manifested here on this planet.
Thank you. Dan has been a tourist guide in India, and he took a tour to Agra, and I said, just maybe another 20 minutes down the road was Vrindavan, which is where Lord Krishna performed the same pastimes that he performs in the spiritual world, although Rupanuga is going to a little more detail explaining that the babyhood pastimes of Krishna in Gokula actually don't go on in Krishna Loka. Is that correct, Rupanuga?
Correct. That's correct.
Uh-huh.
Because there's no birth in Krishna. There's birth here, so Krishna accommodates this. You see? He took his birth, just like the great acharyas take their birth, because this is a world of birth. People take birth here. So Krishna accommodates that, and actually Srila Prabhupada explains his childhood pastimes are the most attractive pastimes. Everyone's attracted because everyone likes everyone likes a
Little baby.
Yeah, everyone likes a baby. What's a baby puppy or a baby kitten or a baby cow or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Mata Gandhari, are you here to read tonight or only to listen? Mata Gandhari? Are you here to read tonight or only listen? Sounds like she just listened.
I can't
Pardon?
read, sorry. I cannot read, sorry.
That's quite all right. Thank you for coming all the way from Mayapur. Okay, so Dan and I will take turns. Okay, so this city of Dwarka, it's actually out in the ocean off the west. What is it? Yeah, the west coast of India. Do you have any idea, Tejas Prabhu, how many miles the city of Dwarka is off the coast of India, roughly? Any clue at all? Or maybe Gandhari will know. Is it a few hundred kilometers? Few hundred miles? How far is the fortress of Dwarka off the coast of India? I just wanted to
It's
give a
right
ballpark.
on the coast. It's right there on the coast.
Well, there's the Dwarka city on land, but then there's the Dwarka palaces that Krishna built out in the ocean. That's what I'm talking about.
Those are submerged. Nobody can see them. They're all gone.
No, but they were not submerged 5,000 years ago.
So, all right, so they're all connected. It's one city. So some of the city goes out over what's now ocean, and some of the cities over which is now land. So what's the
Okay.
problem? What's the
So it
problem?
was
It's all
both.
one big city. It's all one big city.
Okay.
Dwarka today is the land Dwarka, and the unknown, the unseen, submerged is under the ocean, but it's all
Okay.
obviously connected.
Okay, thank you. Right. So I'll read. In this greatly beautiful city of Dwarka, Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, had many residential quarters. The great kings and princes of the world used to visit these palaces just to worship him. The architectural plans were made personally by Vishvakarma, the engineer of the demigods. And in the construction of the palaces, he exhibited all of his talents and ingenuity. These residential quarters numbered more than 16,000, and a different queen of Lord Krishna resided in each of them. The great sage Narada entered one of these houses and saw that the pillars were made of coral and the ceilings were bedecked with jewels. The walls, as well as the arches between the pillars, glowed from the decorations of different kinds of sapphires. Throughout the palace, there were canopies made by Vishvakarma that were decorated with strings of pearls. The chairs and other furniture were made of ivory, bedecked with gold, and diamonds, and jeweled lamps dissipated the darkness within the palace. There was so much incense and flavored gum burning that the scented fumes were coming out of the windows. The peacocks sitting on the steps became illusioned by the fumes, mistaking them for clouds, and began dancing jubilantly. Because peacocks like the clouds, right? They dance when they see clouds. That's what I heard.
Okay.
Because they think it's going to rain. There were many maidservants, all of whom were decorated with gold necklaces, bangles, and beautiful saris. There were also many male servants who were nicely dressed in cloaks and turbans and jeweled earrings. Beautiful as they were, the servants were all engaged in different household duties. Dan, would you like to give it a try?
Narada saw that Lord Krishna was sitting with
Rukmini Devi.
Rukmini Devi, the mistress of that particular palace, who was bearing the rod of a Kamara whisk. Even though there were many thousands of maidservants who were equally beautiful and qualified, and who were of the same age, Rukmini Deva personally was engaged in fanning Lord Krishna. Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, worshipped even by Narada, but still, as soon as he saw Narada enter the palace, Krishna got down immediately from Rukmini's bedstead and stood up to honor him. Lord Krishna is the teacher of the whole world, and in order to instruct everyone how to respect a saintly person like Narada Muni, Krishna bowed down, touching his helmet to the ground. Not only did Krishna bow down, but he also touched the feet of Narada and with folded hands requested him to sit on his chair. Lord Krishna is the Supreme Personality worshipped by all devotees. He is the most worshipped spiritual master of everyone. The Ganges water which emanates from his feet sanctifies the three worlds. All qualified brahmanas worship him, and therefore he is called Brahmanya Deva.
Okay. Any comments from anyone before we continue? We're good? Rupanuga Prabhu?
Brahmanya means one who fully possesses the Brahminical qualifications, which are said to be as follows: truthfulness, self-control, purity, mastery of the senses, simplicity, full knowledge by practical application, and engagement in devotional service. Lord Krishna personally possesses all these qualities, and he is worshipped by persons who themselves possess such qualities. There are thousands and millions of names of Lord Krishna, Vishnu Sahasra Nama, and all of them are given to him because of his transcendental qualities.
That's a really short paragraph. Could you read the next one, please?
Lord Krishna in Dwarka enjoyed the pastimes of a perfect human being, and therefore he washed the feet of the sage Narada and took the water on his head. Narada did not object, knowing well that the Lord did so to teach everyone how to respect saintly persons. The Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, who is the original Narayan, an eternal friend of all living entities, thus worshiped the sage Narada according to Vedic regulative principles, welcoming him with sweet nectarian words. He addressed Narada as Bhagavan, or one who is self-sufficient, possessing all kinds of knowledge, renunciation, strength, fame, beauty, and similar other opulences. He particularly asked Narada, "What can I do in your service?"
Wow, this is really interesting. This is the Supreme Personality of Godhead asking his own devotee how he can serve his devotee. I mean, what religious system has an example of God asking his devotee how he can serve his devotee? Is there any such example in the Torah, Quran, Bible? I'm not sure. Is there?
Well, it's unique about Vaishnavism explains how Lord Krishna is always trying to serve his devotee. His devotee is always trying to serve Krishna, and there's like a competition. We know the story how when Lord Krishna was it Sanatana, no, Rupa Goswami, was it? Was sitting under a tree in Vrindavan, and he was thinking about, oh, if I only had some nice edibles, I could fix a nice prashadam for my brother, Sanatana Goswami. So then along came a young girl who had baskets full of all kinds of wonderful eatables and ghee and vegetables and everything, and she offered to him. And he didn't, well, I don't know, who are you? Where have you come from? Oh, I come from the village. Oh, I've never seen you. Well, my mother just had a festival and she had some leftovers, and I thought I would bring these things that haven't been cooked yet out to you. And so he accepted them, and she went away. The beautiful young girl went away. And so he prepared all these wonderful foodstuffs, sweets and subjis and halava. And Sanatana Goswami came and was invited to come, please sit down and take prashadam. And he said, well, where have you gotten all of these wonderful ingredients to cook such a nice feast? And so Rupa Goswami told him the story, described that this beautiful young girl came, and he'd never seen her before, but she said she was from a local village. And Sanatana Goswami said, you have murdered me. You have accepted service from Mother Radharani. And the point was that the devotee, although Krishna is always wanting to serve, doesn't want to accept service from the Supreme Lord. But the relationship is one of mutual service. Krishna is always thinking about how to serve his devotee so that he can perform his devotional service better.
Thank you. Dan had to leave the room for a moment, but I just wanted to update him that Narada is being asked by the Supreme Lord, Krishna, what can I do in your service? So here's God himself asking how he can serve his own devotee. And I was just mentioning how this is very unique in all the theological traditions.
It's beautiful.
Yes, and Rupanuga just gave an example of how this took place one time when Rupa Goswami wanted to cook something for Krishna. And I explained earlier to Dan that the Supreme Lord in Vaishnava philosophy also has a female counterpart, his Hladini Shakti, or pleasure potency, the personification of unconditional love, Srimati Radharani. And so Rupanuga was just telling a story of how when this one devotee who didn't have any ingredients to cook with, Radharani personally brought that for Krishna's devotee to prepare. So this theology is very deep.
Yeah,
It's
I haven't been exposed or read anything like this before.
no.
It's interesting.
Okay, thank you, Rupanuga. So unless there's anyone else here to read, I'm not sure if anyone else arrived. Then I'll read and Dan will read. Okay, so Narada. Okay, so Krishna is asking Narada, like, how can I serve you? In other words, the Lord Himself is showing us how to be a good servant. And Narada replies, "My dear Lord, this kind of behavior of your lordship is not at all astonishing, because you are the supreme personality of Godhead and master of all species of living entities. You are the supreme friend of all living entities, but at the same time, you are the supreme chastiser of the miscreants and the envious. I know that your lordship has descended on this earth for the proper maintenance of the whole universe. Your appearance, therefore, is not forced by any other agency. By your sweet will only, you agree to appear and disappear. It is my great fortune that I have been able to see your lotus feet today. Anyone who becomes attached to your lotus feet is elevated to the supreme position of neutrality and is uncontaminated by the material modes of nature. My Lord, you are unlimited. There is no limit to your opulences. Great demigods like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva are always busy placing you within their hearts and meditating upon you. The conditioned souls who have now been put into the blind well of material existence can get out of this eternal captivity only by accepting your lotus feet. Thus, you are the only shelter of all conditioned souls. My dear Lord, you have very kindly asked what you can do for me. In answer to this, I simply request that I may not forget your lotus feet at any time. I do not care where I may be, but I pray that I may be allowed to constantly remember your lotus feet. O Rupanuga Prabhu, could you please explain to us this expression, Narada, when Narada is being asked, how can I serve you? He's asking Krishna, you can serve me by helping me to constantly remember your lotus feet. What does this mean to constantly, why this expression, lotus feet?
Well, because in the meditation process, in our movement, we start meditating upon the deity, for example, with the lotus feet, and gradually proceed up to the face, to the beautiful face. We go from the lotus feet to the thighs, to the waist, to the chest, up to the face, like that. That's the meditation upon the Supreme Lord, whether he's in the heart or he's on the altar. A question I have for Dan. Dan, how long have you been following Krishna consciousness?
Oh, he met the devotees in Halifax. How many years ago?
2009, maybe 2008.
So you've been reading the books?
No, I just liked Gauradas over here, and we just got to talk.
No, but he went for prasadam. How many times did you go to eat with the devotees?
Maybe 4 times for the group,
Okay.
like for the group kirtan, but then we kind of became friends, so I went to dinner with them. But
Okay. Did you get any books?
No,
No.
we were just friends because I was a street canvasser. I was on the street selling charity, like Doctors Without Borders and World Wildlife Fund. And then they were on the street doing their books. So we were like buddies. We were like street buddies. But it wasn't a...
So this is really a test for you, because what we're reading is to be taken literally. It's not a myth. It's not some sort of a story to make a point philosophically.
Right.
It actually happened. It actually happened 5,000 years ago. And so this is what we call Shraddha, faith. Your faith will be tested and be tested in so many ways. And the way to best pass the test is to chant the rounds that Srila Prabhupada suggested. And that the way that your faith will become completely unveiled. Because we all have faith. We've been putting faith in so many things and disappointed in so many ways. So it's hard to put our faith.
Yeah.
But faith is absolutely a basic essential in Krishna consciousness development. But to keep focused on it as literal truth requires chanting, regular chanting, to purify our vision, to purify our consciousness, so that we can accept as literal truth what we're reading and hearing. Because it's so different from now and so impossible for the science fiction writers to conceive of even. So it's a test. It's a test. To take it literally, as it is, because that's the point. For one who can take it literally, there's a great benefit.
Okay.
Although it seems beyond, it is beyond any human imagination.
Otherworldly.
I'm comfortable.
Otherworldly, just the opulence described here is never to be encountered in this material world. You see, so I'm just making this point that, however it may sound, by submissive oral reception, by oral meaning ear, by submissive oral reception, the faith will be fanned and get brighter and brighter. You see, and then that spiritual intelligence that is dormant within us becomes more and more active. You see, and we can see why, accepting this as literal truth, we're saved from the illusions of this material world.
So can you please explain, it reminds me of when I was a little boy, we used to hear about Aladdin's lamp, and by rubbing Aladdin's lamp, then he could have 3 wishes, anything he could want. So here Lord Krishna is asking Narada, how can I serve you? What can I do for you? And Narada is saying, then, please make sure that I never forget your lotus feet. So what's the value of always remembering Krishna's lotus feet?
Well, because by doing that, we're not part of this material. We're in the material world, but not part of it. We're in this material world, but not of it. You see, to remain that distinction, keep that distinction requires to be meditating on Krishna, whether it's on his deity form or a picture or the name of the Mahamantra name. We have to be meditating on Krishna. So that's why he wants. We're always meditating, always aware of Krishna. We're always conscious of Krishna in some way or another. Then we're in this world, but we're not of it. We're not subject to the karmas of this world. We're not subject to the trials and tribulations of this world. We see it as illusion. This karma that's now going on around the world, it's all karmic. East versus West, Russia versus Ukraine. This is all karma. The play out of karma, of conditioned souls, and it goes on and on and on. But for those of us who are reading Krishna book, we're in a different world. And we chant, we're in a different world. We're taking prasadam, we're in a different world. We're cooking prasadam, we're in a different world. We're cleaning, taking a shower for Krishna. Almost everything we do is related to Krishna. That makes us in a different world. We're in a different dimension, the 4th dimension. Just like there's a future and there's a past. And the future is always passing us by, right in front of us. The future is becoming the past immediately. It just rolls right by. So what's the present? Where's the present? The future is always becoming the past right in front of us. This material world is undergoing changes every second. Our body's undergoing changes. Everything is deteriorating here. Yet we're observing. We're in the present. The present means eternal. We are eternal. We are observing the future go by us and to become the past. The only present is in Krishna consciousness. Present means eternal. So we're in the constant present when we're practicing Krishna consciousness. And the future and the past do not affect us. Does that make sense?
That part really makes sense.
Rupanuga quoted a verse from Bhaktivinoda Thakur the other day. Forget the past that sleeps, ne'er the future dream at all. Live in times that are with thee, and progress thee shall call.
Beautiful.
Yeah, act it in times that are with you. So that action means devotional service. That means bhakti yoga process. If we chant, we follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions, we will remain in the eternal present. And we will not get karma. We will not accumulate any karma. Karma binds us to the material world. Good karma or bad karma, it doesn't matter. Good or bad work, both stuck here, because we have to have a body to live it out. So we don't want to accumulate karma, good or bad. We want no karma, no material action whatsoever. And that is guaranteed if we follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions. If we stop following, then we may be subjected to karma again. Once a person gets initiated and goes on for some time and then starts doing materialistic things, then he has to take the karma. He's in the karma world. Sometimes the devotee's cooking prasadam in the temple or in his home and cuts his finger instead of his neck because karma of his past is reduced because of his practices. So the thing is to give up karma, give up material action, give up what material action is centered around sense gratification. The ultimate goal is to give up sense gratification. Sense gratification means serving oneself instead of Krishna. We're servants. We must serve. Either we serve ourselves, we serve a dog, we serve a cat, we serve a wife, we serve children, we serve a nation, we serve a cause, or we serve Krishna. We have to serve someone or something. It's our nature.
Bob Dylan wrote a song. You got to serve somebody. It may be the devil or it may be the Lord, but you got to serve somebody.
Yeah, it's impossible not to. It's like you can say, is a fire without heat and light? No. If the fire has no heat or light, how's it fire? So we don't have service, we're dead. We're active. We always have to be serving. The better to serve the most servable personality, the greatest personality, Krishna. To serve him, and all other needs are served. All our obligations are finished.
You were mentioning earlier that a devotee of the Lord does not want good karma, but in modern society, of course, everyone would say, well, I much would rather prefer good karma than bad karma. So why is good karma also bad karma in a sense?
Because you have to take birth to get the result. We're supposed to make this the last death. So if you have good karma coming, then you have to take birth to enjoy it. So karma in either way is binding. Good karma, you get a good birth. Bad karma, you get a bad birth. Either way, you get a birth. Material birth, another material body.
Since most of us are coming from Christian families, I remember as a little boy, my mom would have me bow down by the bed. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us for our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us. How's the rest of that go?
Anyway, that's all atonement. That's all atonement.
That part about thy will be done. So thy will be done means living the karma-free life, but my will be done means living the karmic life.
Well, yeah, they're praying the will of the Lord to be done. They want the Lord's way to prevail. And it is. This is the golden age of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is prevailing. It will prevail. And they're praying for daily bread. The Srila Prabhupada explained. That's praying to God for more supplies to make this world happier. But again, by praying like that, one is really praying for good circumstances to remain in this material world, to be happy in this material world, for supplies to be situated in this material world. See, that's
what if one prays for facilities so they can do more service for the Lord?
That's different. They're not praying. If they pray for supplies of our daily bread, but I offer it first, let me offer it to you. To pray for daily bread means to subsist, to sustain this material life, to make it, to be comfortable here. It's a celestial religion. Prabhupada explained it. It's a celestial religion. The best can happen is promotion to heavenly planets. But in order to go back to Godhead, one has to understand Godhead. One understands who God is, what God's mission is, what God's desires are, what he looks like, what his activities are, what his quality, what his qualities are. There has to be knowledge in order to surrender. And one has to have all this in order to go back to Godhead. If it's like one religion knows the master, but one religion knows the servant, but not the master. The other religion knows the son, but not the father. But we have to know the father. We have to know the master in order to go back to him. See what's missing? Srila Prabhupada brings the glories of the master, brings the glories of the father, and tells who the father is, what he looks like, where he comes from, what his plans are, who his pure devotees are. This is all explained. So one can be attracted when one hears about Bhagavan. Bhaga means qualities, Van means possessor. So Bhagavan means he possesses all the qualities infinitely, without limit. The most beautiful, most intelligent, the most strong, the most wealthy, the most renounced. It's all these qualities that we are attracted to a person, attracts us to another person in this world, are fully there in Krishna without limit, all at once. Nobody can claim to be the most intelligent person, be the most, on this planet. They can be the wealthiest man. They can be a Elon Musk, very, very powerful, very, very well. But is he beautiful? Is he also renounced? Is he also so intelligent without limit? No. Everyone has some qualities. Krishna has them all once, unlimitedly. Therefore, he's a supreme person.
And that's what Krishna means, all attractive.
Yeah. Anyway, this is not supposed to be a class for me to give. We're supposed to be reading.
We don't mind.
That's great.
Thank you for getting on a roll.
Wonderful advice.
Thank you for getting on a roll.
It's your fault.
No, we just want you to keep rolling. Let's see, who else is here today? Oh, wow, and the Hush came. That's fantastic. Okay, so I'm going back to reading, and then Dan, and then let's see, who was the last to read? I've lost track. Who's the last? Were you the last one to read, Rupanuga? I can't remember.
I think so. Anyway, I lost it too.
If you were the last to read, then that means Nahush.
Well, the next paragraph says the benediction which the sage Narada asked from. That's the next paragraph.
Okay, so Nahush Prabhu, are you there? Can you read?
Yes, I can read.
Nahush has come all the way from Michigan.
Jai
Okay.
Krishna.
Go for it.
The benediction which the sage Narada asked from the Lord is the ideal prayer of all pure devotees. A pure devotee never asks for any kind of material or spiritual benediction from the Lord, but his only prayer is that he may not forget the lotus feet of the Lord in any condition of life. A pure devotee does not care whether he is put in heaven or hell. He is satisfied anywhere, provided he can constantly remember the lotus feet of the Lord. Lord Chaitanya also taught the same process of prayer in his Shashtika, in which he clearly stated that all he wanted was devotional service, birth after birth. A pure devotee does not even want to stop the repetition of birth and death. To a pure devotee, it does not matter whether he has to take birth again in the various species of life. His only ambition is that he may not forget the lotus feet of the Lord in any condition of life. After departing from the palace of Rukmini, Narada wanted to see the activities of Lord Krishna's internal potency, Yogamaya. Thus, he entered the palace of another queen. There, he saw Lord Krishna engaged in playing chess, along with his dear wife and Uddhava. The Lord immediately got up from his seat and invited Narada Muni to sit on his personal seat. The Lord again worshipped him with as much paraphernalia for reception as he had in the palace of Rukmini. After worshiping him properly, Lord Krishna acted as if he did not know what had happened in the palace of Rukmini. He therefore told Narada, "My dear sage, when your holiness comes here, you are full in yourself. Although we are householders and are always in need, you don't require anyone's help because you are self-satisfied. Under the circumstances, what reception can we offer you, and what can we possibly give you? Yet, since your holiness is a Brahmana, it is our duty to offer you something as far as possible. Therefore, I beg your pleasure to order me. What can I do for you?"
So unfortunately, Nahush, I'd appreciate it if you could try to find out the contact information for this site, prabhupadbooks.com, because this story ends right here. They didn't include the rest of it. So that's an error on their part. They need to be informed.
Yeah, I will. Let me try. Yeah.
I don't think we can scroll up any further. That's it. But there's more to the book, right, Rupanuga Prabhu?
Yeah. So you want me to read?
Yeah.
Okay. Naradaji knew everything about the pastimes of the Lord. So without any further discussion, he simply left the palace silently in great astonishment over the Lord's activities. He then entered another palace. This time, Naradaji saw that Lord Krishna was engaged as an affectionate father petting his small children. From there, he entered another palace and saw Lord Krishna preparing to take his bath. In this way, Saint Narada entered each and every one of the 16,000 residential palaces of the queens of Lord Krishna. And in each of them, he found Krishna engaged in different ways. In one place, he found Krishna engaged in offering oblations to the sacrificial fire and performing the ritualistic ceremonies of the Vedas as enjoined for householders. In another palace, Krishna was found performing the Pancha Yagya sacrifice, which is compulsory for a householder. This yagna is also known as Pancha Shuna. Knowingly or unknowingly, everyone, specifically the householder, is committing 5 kinds of sinful activities. When we receive water from a water pitcher, we kill many germs that are in it. Similarly, when we use a grinding machine or take foodstuff, we kill many germs. When sweeping a floor or igniting a fire, we kill many germs. And when we walk on the street, we kill many ants and other insects. Consequently, or unconsciously, or consciously or unconsciously, in all our different activities, we are killing. Therefore, it is incumbent upon every householder to perform the Panchashuna sacrifice to rid himself of the reactions to such sinful activities. In one palace, Lord Krishna was found engaged in feeding brahmanas after performing ritualistic yagyas. In another palace, Narada found Krishna engaged in silently chanting the Gayatri mantra. And in a third, he found him practicing fighting with a sword and shield. In some palaces, Lord Krishna was found riding on horses or elephants or chariots and wandering hither and thither. Elsewhere, he was found lying down on his bedstead, taking rest, and somewhere else he was found sitting in his chair, being praised by the prayers of his different devotees. In some of the palaces, he was found consulting with ministers like Uddhava and others on important matters of business. In one palace, he was found surrounded by many young society girls enjoying in a swimming pool. In another palace, he was found engaged in giving well-decorated cows in charity to the brahmanas. And in another palace, he was found hearing the narrations of the Puranas or histories, such as the Mahabharata, which are supplementary literatures for disseminating Vedic knowledge to common people by narrating important instances in the history of the universe. Somewhere, Lord Krishna was found enjoying the company of a particular wife by exchanging joking words with her. Somewhere else, he was found engaged. He was found engaged along with his wife in religious ritualistic functions. Since it is necessary for householders to increase their financial assets for various expenditures, Krishna was found somewhere engaged in matters of economic development. Somewhere else, he was found enjoying family life according to the regulative principles of the Shastras.
I found another translation, well, not translation, but I found another site. It's Bhaktivedanta Archive site. And I was just reading, following what you were saying. I didn't see any unusual edits. So rather than you, I mean, unless you want to do all the reading.
No. I'm just read what you asked me.
Yeah, sure. So I'm just wondering, is Nahush there or? No, you already read Nahush. Okay. And who else is here? Matagundari. And Anne never reads, so she just listens. So I guess it's back up to me then. Okay. In one palace, he was found sitting in meditation, as if concentrating his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond these material universes. Meditation, as recommended in authorized scripture, is meant for concentrating one's mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vishnu, Lord Krishna, is himself the original Vishnu, but because he played the part of a human being, he taught us definitely by his personal behavior what is meant by meditation. Somewhere, Lord Krishna was found satisfying elderly superiors by supplying them things they needed. Somewhere else, Narada ji found that Lord Krishna was engaged in discussing topics of fighting, and somewhere else in making peace with enemies. Somewhere, Lord Krishna was found discussing the ultimate auspicious activity for the entire human society with his elder brother, Lord Balaram. Narada saw Lord Krishna engaged in getting his sons and daughters married with suitable brides and bridegrooms in due course of time, and the marriage ceremonies were being performed with great pomp. In one palace, the Lord was found bidding farewell to his daughters, and in another, he was found receiving a daughter-in-law. People throughout the whole city were astonished to see such pomp and ceremonies. Dan, are you there? Oh, okay, because it was your turn to read next. I just wanted to bring up the point here. Maybe we could also bring it up for the benefit of Dan, that it's stated here that in one place, Lord Krishna was found sitting in meditation, as if concentrating his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is beyond these material universes. So that's pretty interesting. Krishna is meditating on himself.
Yeah.
And meditation, as recommended in authorized scripture, is meant for concentrating one's mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Vishnu. So I would just like to hear your further elaboration. Dan had to step out of the room for a moment, but I just wanted to address this topic of meditation. For instance, the first time I think I heard of meditation was as a young man, hearing that the Beatles had gone to Hrishikesh to study transcendental meditation. And I thought, oh, gee, I better learn what meditation is too, because the Beatles are into it. And if the Beatles are into meditation, I want to learn meditation too. So I was born in Winnipeg, Manitoba. And I heard that the Transcendental Meditation people were going to be doing a presentation at the Winnipeg Planetarium. So I thought, well, since the Beatles are into TM or Transcendental Meditation, I better learn how to do that too, because I want to be like the Beatles. So I went to the Winnipeg Planetarium where these two gentlemen, they were in business suits, which I found unusual because I was thinking, well, if the Beatles are into this, they're not going to have people in business suits. That's too corporate for the Beatles. I was hoping they'd be in kurtas with, flowers in their hair. But these two men came dressed in business suits. and they had some graphs explaining that if you paid X amount of dollars and bought your mantra from them, that and then they showed graphs showing that your stress would become lower, and that you'd make more money, you'd have like more material success. And I was looking at this and thinking, why would the Beatles be into this? Like, what's transcendental about this meditation? So I was wondering, Dan, I think you've done some Vipassana meditation. You've looked at Buddhism, and what, according to what you've learned, what is the purpose of meditation? What's the goal, as far as you've understood?
Well, I like to think of meditation like sports. So you could say ping pong is a sport and rock climbing is a sport. So there are all sorts of different things we can do when we close our eyes. So I think, there's like practicing music as a kind of meditation. You focus your mind to it to make better art. So like, I don't know, right now I've been doing lots of love and kindness meditation to try to build compassion. Sometimes I'll do what I would call shamatha meditation, like focusing meditation to build focus. So it will be different things. It's not just one meditation. You could do like awakening stuff or
many kinds of meditations.
Yeah, it's like
focusing on different.
It's like saying what's writing. It depends what you write.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So Rupanuga, could you elaborate a little more on what the popular concepts of meditation are, as in comparison to the ancient Vedic view, where the word meditation actually originates from? I think it's called dhyan, isn't it? Dhyan is meditation.
Shubhava defined the word meditation is to thoughtfully consider some subject matter. It's not to concentrate on anything like a flame or some kind of physical object. It's to thoughtfully consider some subject matter. And for the Bhakti yogi, the subject matter is Krishna and his pastimes, his philosophy. That's subject matter. So he's to thoughtfully consider subject matter to make spiritual advancement specifically for that purpose. So that's a different kind of meditation. It's not laissez-faire or whatever comes, or the mind has so many ideas. I mean, the mind, it's the same mind we've had with us since every birth we've had in this universe. It's the same subtle body we've had. So the mind is filled with experiences from all of previous lives. The subconscious is filled with all these detailed films of our past in various species. So to focus the mind above all that, because if we don't, those things can affect us. We have to focus our mind on the highest possible meditation, which is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when we chant the holy name, that's focusing on Krishna, because Krishna is not different than his name. So that's the highest meditation. That's what we teach. There's different, like it was said, there's different forms of it. But Krishna explains that the best yogi is one who's always thinking about me. He's focused his meditation upon me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So there's different levels and different yoga practices to control the senses. But we don't stop with control. We use the senses. This is the difference between us and other forms of yoga. Other yoga forms want to control the senses, withdraw the senses, but we want to engage the senses, use the senses in Krishna's service. It's a vast difference. It's far more practical.
Because generally the approach to meditation in the West is to negate, because the forms of this world are considered a distraction or temporary, or
yes, the meditation is intended to free us from anxiety, to make us peaceful. But this planet's known as a planet of anxiety, Kunta. So the real question is, how do we come free of anxiety? We're in anxiety because we're trying to enjoy ourselves in this material world. It's not possible. Nobody's done it. Everybody's pretending to be happy. Nobody's happy. And everyone has to die. Well, how do they deal with that? So this movement deals with that, to make this death the last one. The last one. And that, how do we do that? We engage in the meditation that Krishna recommends, involving bhakti yoga and meditating upon him. This passage, it's like right now, we're meditating on Krishna. We're meditating on his form in Dwarka and all these pastimes. We're meditating on Narada Muni, witnessing all these things. We're thoughtfully considering the subject matter. So we're meditating with our eyes open, and we're just taking this in. This is also meditation, smartam, remembering. So it's a question of quality, the quality of meditation. Are we meditating on something that will keep us in the material world, meditating forever? Or are we meditating on something that will release us from this material world by finding out more and more and meditating more and more in the spiritual world?
What are the Buddhists meditating for? What's their goal? What's the difference between Buddhist meditation and that of a Vaishnava?
I've never studied the difference, but I did ask a Buddhist monk in Bangkok once, what happens to a pure Buddhist? He was a Pure Land Buddhist. I asked him what happens for a successful Buddhist at the time of death. Really? Because that's where it's at, right? That question. So what happens to a sincere Buddhist, a qualified Buddha at the time of death? He said he achieves Buddhahood. And I said, well, what is Buddhahood? You become Buddha? He said, no, you don't become Buddha. I said, what is Buddhahood? And he couldn't tell me.
Can I make a comment?
I was going to ask you to make a comment because Tejas spent a lot of time traveling. You traveled through Thailand, Tejas? Taiwan, studying the Buddhists.
Which is the Fujian, the homeland of. So just an interesting thing, and I unfortunately can't. I had that book and it escaped me in my moving from continent to continent. But there's a book called, which is published by the Pure Land Buddhism in Taipei, in which there's 2,700 Buddhist temples that serve their prasadam, which they offer to Lord Buddha. And there's a depiction of the spiritual world, which could easily have been lifted from the cover of the Srimad Bhagavatam. And it shows that there are many planets in the Vaikunthas. They don't use the word Vaikuntha, but the eternal abode. And in each of those abodes, there's a form of the Lord. And then there's a planet in which Lord Buddha, in his eternal form, resides. And the devotees who become perfect in the concept of Pure Land Buddhism,
yes,
go to that planet in a purified form and eternally associate with Lord Buddha. So in the higher realm of Buddhism,
yes,
it's
definitely
completely personal.
Yes.
But unfortunately, because of people being overwhelmed purposely by Lord Shankaracharya, the Buddha came to counteract that tendency, and prefacing Lord Shankaracharya coming in to wipe out the atheism. Sorry, I got it mixed backwards. The atheism, introducing atheism so they would not misuse of Vedic processes. So it's veiled atheism. But in the heart of Buddhism, it's, you travel in Japan and they're very devotional to the Buddha. They worship the form of the Buddha. So, totally. They offer arti, they offer food, purified foods. It must be completely pure, no onion, no garlic. So they believe in sattva gun only can be offered to Buddha. So it's there, but not a lot of information.
Yeah, the Pure Land Buddhists in Bangkok impressed me very much. They had many little shrines on various street corners where they had figures of Lord Buddha, and they would offer fruits. People would just offer these fruits to these deities on the street corners. And
And
Pure
then
Land
you have
Buddhism,
Angkor Wat, which is, the original largest temple of Lord Vishnu. So
yeah, so there's this obvious amongst the Pure Land Buddhists, there's been an amalgamation with Vedic culture somewhere along the line, because they've imbibed certain principles and teachings, like you were describing, which you won't find in Zen Buddhism, for example, or other forms of Buddhism. You won't find that. This Vedic culture has had a tremendous influence in all of Southeast Asia. So there I saw the golden, the Emerald Buddha there in Bangkok, who's carved from a single emerald stone. Oh. And they change his clothing by the seasons. Every season, they actually change his clothes, and they make offerings there at that shrine. So I was impressed, because my previous conception of Buddhism was like the Zen Buddhism. It was never very clear what they were really trying to do. But actually, Lord Buddha originally came, Shaktavesha Avatar, came to deliver the philosophy of ahimsa, which was non-violence to the cows. He wanted to stop the cow killing, which was rampant. There were slaughterhouses all over India, which was a much larger India than today. And he came to stop that slaughterhouse. That was his main mission. Philosophy developed from that, which spread all over, which required Shankaracharya to come to overshadow the Buddhism that was very popular. But Lord Buddha, and Srila Prabhupada explained, he tricked them. They were godless, but he tricked them into worshiping him. So he created faith in the faithless by them worshiping him, and he's incarnation of the Supreme Lord. So that was his basic mission.
Well, some weren't tricked, some eagerly worshipped him. And that's where the parampara of Pure Land Buddhism, where those who were the Mahayana and Hinayana. So the Mahayana. Yes. That smaller, that Hinayana, that was understanding the Vapu of Lord Buddha.
Yeah.
So, but that wasn't his, that was behind the scenes.
Yeah, that was his esoteric. His exoteric reason was to save the cows. Just like Lord Muhammad, Srila Prabhupada said, Lord Muhammad came, the first thing he said was, stop having incest or I'll kill you.
Yes, in the Quran, there are 8 personalities mentioned, 7 or 8, with whom a man should not have intercourse. And the list begins with your mother, then your daughter, and your sister, and your uncle's wife. And it's just, if you think it's so horrendous, what a situation he came into, that that has to be incorporated into, that they're so lowly, and animals, of course.
Yes, comparatively speaking, Lord Krishna and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to a very advanced culture, a very advanced spiritual culture that had been around for many, many thousands and thousands of years, for yugas and yugas, where Lord Ramchandra had appeared millions of years before, where other Nrsingadev had appeared, where so many deities were already worshipped before Lord Krishna came. Such an advanced spiritual culture compared to persons who are like doing what you just described, or fishermen or agriculturalists. Christ said, I'll make you fishers of men. He was a preacher.
We just read in the previous paragraph that Lord Krishna sat down to meditate upon himself. So some people may get some misconceptions, say, well, look, just as Krishna is sitting and meditating upon himself, I'll follow Krishna's example and I'll also meditate on myself too.
No, the example is to meditate. No, the example is to meditate on Krishna, not on yourself. Meditate on Krishna.
But isn't yourself a part of Krishna?
When it comes to service, you're a part. You're apart from Krishna. You're a servant of Krishna.
Just to meditate on oneself as Jiva Suru Boy, Nitya Krishna Das. That is bona fide. We
Yes.
meditate how we're going to serve Krishna,
Yes. If we
but
meditate
not
on what's
separated.
right, our designation, the only designation we accept, the designation we accept beyond all these bodily designations is that we're disciples of Srila Prabhupada or followers of Srila Prabhupada, and we're servants of the servants of the servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is our actual designation. We have a designation. So the movement's all about getting us to accept our real designation.
What's the difference between thinking I'm the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and thinking I'm a Muslim, I'm a Catholic, I'm a Jew, I'm a Zoroastrian, I'm a Baha'i? What's the difference?
Because a servant needs to follow the order of the Lord. Otherwise, he's not a real servant. So Srila Prabhupada gives an example how Christ said, Christ said, I come not to contradict the prophets. And it's there, the first commandment, thou shalt not kill. So Srila Prabhupada says, you want to be a follower of Christianity, then you have to follow the order. See? So people say, oh, I'm this, I am that. The question is, are you following the orders of the Supreme Lord? The religion, first of all, means to follow the order of God. That's the basic definition of religion. So if one claims to be a follower of God, but breaks the commandments, breaks all the principles, or some of them, then he has improvements to make. So when I was in a dentist, my primary physician's office a few months ago, I was looking at a Bible. I looked at the Old Testament under the 10 Commandments, and they had changed "Thou shalt not kill" to "Thou shalt not murder."
Oh my goodness.
That is a legal conception of humanity. But "Thou shalt not kill" is a broad conception. Have supreme dominion over all that be is a human being's position. He has supreme dominion over all that be. Doesn't mean he has the right to exploit all of the creatures, but that he is the father of them all. He's the protector of them all. He's to see to their well-being. That's the supreme dominion. Like the father is supreme dominion, but what? The dominion is to protect the children, protect the wife, not to exploit them. So the first commandment, thou shalt not kill. And the second one's like unto it, love thy neighbor as thyself. So would you want your neighbor to kill you? No. Would you want your neighbor to give you the absolute truth? Yes. So the commandments are there, but they're all moral commandments. They're all morality, the best morality. But Krishna teaches the utmost final commandment to surrender unto him. You give up all these different ritualistic commandments, all these different things, and get to the goal. The goal is to surrender to me. So the goal of religion is to surrender to God.
I'd like to ask Dan a question right now. Dan, there seems to be a popular conception today that people want spirituality, but they don't want religion. Yes? Mm-hmm. So what do you think is the distinction between the religion that they don't want, but the spirituality that they're looking for? Is spirituality more like the essence, you think?
They're looking, in my opinion, they're looking for the substance instead of the form. The form of organized religion is not attractive. What people want is spirituality, the essence.
Yeah, I think
the essence of religion is to become conscious of God and follow his instructions. The next stage in evolution of the human being is to become conscious of God. He's conscious of everything else.
Yeah, I think people are, at least from my demographic, because that's where I can speak from, like people who grew up secular in Canada pretty much. I think that people want healing, and they're seeing therapy and spirituality coming together, and they're scared of religion because we grew up with dysfunctional churches and child abuse. And like, I went to synagogue when I was a child. I never felt anything. So I think that because there's such a lack of spirituality in some of the, the feelings, the connectedness, it seems a little bit like going to the not to the dentist, but maybe to like a family affair that you don't want to go to. Whereas
something that's official.
Spirituality can be before that, if that makes sense. It's like spirituality can be
or grassroots.
I don't know. I think that's a long question. And I think
the healing, the word is healing.
Yeah,
with healing. We are diseased. This material body is a disease. Birth, death, old age, and disease. This is a disease condition we're in. So the real healing is how to get to the freedom stage, the stage of peace of mind, the stage where we are not suffering from birth, death, old age, and disease. Nobody wants to die. Nobody wants to get diseased. Nobody wants to get older. So that's really the problem, not eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. The animals are dealing with that quite well. But our problem is more than that. Our problem is birth, death, old age, and disease. And actual peace of mind and actual freedom comes from solving that problem. Right? Everybody pretends they're not going to die. How is it that we've evolved so far? We're born to die? Does that make sense? All of this trouble, this universe and everything, we've simply come to the point as human beings, we're born to die and that's it. But that's what people believe. They believe at the time of death, that's it. They don't believe in the next life. But the next life is either good karma or bad karma, or it's nish karma. Nothing, no karma, just spiritual life eternally. That's what we want. That's freedom from birth, death, old age, disease. That's freedom from anxiety. But people don't know about these things. This is not foreign to the world. They've forgotten all of this. So Srila Prabhupada came to remind us. He brought the books to remind us. He brought an example to remind us. He brought us a method we could remind ourselves by practicing the method. We could recover our spirituality. As I said before, we are eternal. This world is passing us by. We're simply observing all these things. Everything's deteriorating around us all the time. But we're not, the observer, we're simply present. We're eternally present, right here and now. We are eternal. That's why we don't like it here. Everything's changing, everything's dying. We're eternal. We're not happy here because we're eternal.
In other words, it's unnatural for the eternal Atma to be lodged in a bag of skin and bone and blood, which is decaying and causing us all kinds of aches and pains.
Yeah, this machine is deteriorating just like a car or a truck. We're just, this is like a, organic machine. Okay, it's a machine. It's running on electricity. Brain waves, our nerve impulses, our heart contracting and expanding, this all on electricity. Yeah, it's a machine. But we're not the machine. We're observing the machine and we're observing everything around us. And the sooner we understand the difference between ourselves and this material world, the better it will be, and understand we're not of this world. We are aliens here. You see, that's why we can't be happy. We're like fish out of water. A fish up in the beach, you can pour all the sand on him that you like. He's not going to be happy. He belongs in the water.
It's a great point you're making. We're aliens here because there's a whole lot of people that are absorbed in studying about aliens coming here, but actually we are the aliens.
But Srila Prabhupada wasn't an alien. Srila Prabhupada was sent from the spiritual sky to explain to us how to get out of this situation. to have eternal bodies to match our eternal existence instead of these temporary material bodies, which we have to keep changing. As long as we stay in this material world, we have to keep changing our bodies. We don't like that because we're eternal. We have eternal bodies which are now dormant, like a tree and a seed. We're in a spark form, but we have eternal forms in relation with our service to Krishna. Srila Prabhupada explains this in the introduction to Bhagavad Gita. We have different eternal service relationships with Krishna, which we've forgotten and covered over, because at one time in the spiritual world with Krishna, we start thinking, because we have free will, we start thinking, well, I'm as good as Krishna, why should I serve Krishna? Just because we happen to look like Krishna, because he was another cowherd boy like us, or somehow or another we get this silly idea. So we stop loving Krishna. So we have to love ourselves in the form of these material bodies. We have to just engage in sense gratification, gratifying the senses of this body. See, that's why we came here, because we chose not to love Krishna, but to love ourselves.
But that's a popular philosophy today, that you have to learn to love yourself. What does that mean?
Well, you have to learn to love who you are. If you think you're your body, then you're not going to be happy loving your body. If you think you're your body, you're not your body. But if you think you're your body and you're loving your body by trying to satisfy its senses all the time, then you'll never be happy, because that's not you. You're not your body. You're the observer. You're the seer. You're the knower of the body. You're the user of the body, but you're not the body itself. You don't say I hand, I head, I. You say my head, my eye, because you're different. See, you're the possessor of the body, but you're not the body. But people forget this because of constant engagement in the external world, and is living in a world of consumerism. Consume, consume, consume. Why, when you go to the store, why do they have 20 different brands of toilet paper to choose from? Why? It's not necessary, but it's consumerism. You have to have choice. You have to have something new to keep you distracted from the real purpose of life. So the persons who are taking advantage of this ignorance can enjoy taxing you to death, leading you to death. You see? And they themselves are an illusion. They themselves are controlled by the modes of material nature. They think that they're controllers because they have a lot of money, because they have big positions. So they're also in Mayan illusion. And they have to die too, like everybody else. Because a man's rich doesn't mean he gets no disease. Because a man's rich and wealthy and strong and healthy, and very highly educated with so many degrees, doesn't mean he doesn't get sick. That he doesn't get old. That he doesn't die. It's all an illusion. Because we wanted the illusion of being master. We wanted to pretend that we were master of what we survey, but we're not. We're the servants of what we survey. We're the servants of birth, death, old age, we're summer, fall, winter, spring. We're the servants of the government. We're the servants of this, that. Everyone's serving the wrong thing. They're not serving the root. It's like watering the tree, the leaves instead of the root. You have to water the root. And to become a devotee of Krishna is very important, because it's like watering the root with our energy, and that watering process is spread around to all the others, whether they realize it or not. Actually, everyone gets that service, the benefit of our service, because we're watering the root. We're serving the root, the cause of all causes, the Supreme Lord. So all the parts and parcels of the Lord benefit. They may not realize that. That's what's so important about this movement. You see, it's purifying the very atmosphere. You see.
Nahush had his hand up. Do you have a question, Nahush, Prabhu?
I'm sorry, but
no, I'd love to listen. This is really nice. And my question is more on, I guess, an existential level, and the fact of observing how civilizations change, and then seeing like how different masters have come, like whether it be Muhammad or I guess Buddha, you can say, and other places. So in a sense, in a changing dynamic world where we know, like my generation knows about Srila Prabhupada. We didn't necessarily meet him in person, so to speak. And so, he's our Acharya. And so the question comes as like, okay, we have heard about the absolute truth and the Acharya and the pure devotee. And then how do we navigate through there? And in the sense, changing things that are changing, do we accept the best that is available to us, but still continue on the search for the absolute? And in that sense, like for example, if I was born in the Middle East during the time Muhammad had appeared, then I likely would have been subjected to the degradations of that age, and then I would accept Muhammad as the savior. But then but so what I'm trying to say is, like, as things are changing from a macroscopic time level, and since devotees are not, they want to be servants of Krishna life after life, but they're not, like we just read, they're not concerned with the heaven or hell concept as much. So like I guess my question is, like, as times are changing and society and community values are changing and the dynamics are changing, how do we stay steady in the service of Krishna? And how do we really recognize like a spiritual master, bona fide spiritual master, and and then with the whole concept of staying in like a sampradaya or a religion comes into question. And I don't know. I think
Okay, you're obviously confused. But listen,
yeah,
the previous avatars appeared at certain time and circumstances and taught according to the people of the time.
Yeah.
They had if someone has to say, well, stop having incest or I'll kill you. Well, that's one kind of people. Another person says another thing. But Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, has appeared for now.
Okay, understood. Yes.
And you're here now. You're not in ancient times. You're here now. And what's happening now is the question. Now the world is very fallen, very, very fallen. The slaughterhouses that existed at Lord Buddha's time now cover the whole planet.
Hare Krishna.
Not only for cows, but for so many other creatures. And abortion, which was unknown to be legal before 1972 in this country. And before that in India, it was unheard of. So all of these things have been happening. And Lord Chaitanya, this is his age. This is the golden age we're in, the year 535, Garubda. So this is the actual golden age we're transversing, we're entering into this period of 10,000 years, now 9,500 years left of this Kali Yuga will be the golden age of Lord Chaitanya. So Lord Chaitanya is the avatar, the Yuga avatar.
Yes.
And he's teaching the Yuga Dharma.
Yes.
So like you were saying, if you were Buddhist time, you'd be following Buddha. If you were born in Muhammad's vicinity, you would be following him. So now you have to follow Lord Chaitanya.
Yes.
Okay.
Krishna.
And what does Lord Chaitanya say? We know what he says because Srila Prabhupada translated it.
Yes.
From Sanskrit and Bengali into Chaitanya Chaitamrita.
Yes.
And to Shikshastika. So we know what the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself said, because Lord Chaitanya is special. He only comes once in 1,000 times 420 million solar years. Do you know how long that is? How many pages it would take? And once in that year of Lord Brahma, Lord Chaitanya and Lord Krishna come, and Lord Krishna came 5,000 years ago, and Lord Chaitanya came 535 years ago. And we're so fortunate because we have what exactly Krishna said in writing. And not only in Bhagavad Gita, but in Chaitanya, in Bhagavatam, there's so many quotes from Krishna throughout Bhagavatam. Personal quotes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. Not talking about him, not talking about the Father, not talking about the Master, but the Master himself. Now, could there be any more fortunate time than this? In the history of humanity, in the past 5,000 years, has there been a more opportune moment for God realization, for self-realization than there is now? And on top of it all, We have a saintly personality like Srila Prabhupada who gives us the truth unchanged, transcribed for us, written for us. It's perfect. It's just perfect. We have thousands of lectures. We have hundreds of books. We're so overwhelmed. We've got the holy name incarnate in front of us. We chant every day. We've got Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself. We got the incarnation of the Lord as the holy name.
Yes.
We got, what else do we? We have the Lord in the heart, Lord Janardhan, who's giving us instructions. And then we got Srila Prabhupada. I mean, what more do we want? So your question is answered. You are born at the right time and right place. This is the best birth you've ever taken.
Yes.
That you've been in this universe. So you better take advantage of it.
Mhm. Absolutely.
All of us. This is the best birth we've taken. Everybody here. It's the best birth we've ever taken. We don't even remember the previous births. But believe it, this is the best birth we've ever taken. There's been nothing like this birth. It's all here, everything we need. We are covered. We are covered. Spiritually, we have it all. And all we got to do is follow Srila Prabhupada's instructions, who explains it all to us. He's translated the whole thing into our languages so that we can understand what's going on and what the purpose of life is. And on top of it all, we are obliged to share what we've learned from Srila Prabhupada with the other conditioned souls. That's what Lord Chaitanya meant. When I want my name and philosophy, my name known in every town and village, how's that going to happen? That's what we're supposed to do.
Yes.
And the best way to deliver Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is in Srila Prabhupada's books. Srila Prabhupada Vani.
Mhm.
We have an obligation. We have a task. We have an obligation to humanity. We have to pay back Srila Prabhupada for what he's given us. How do we do that? We'll never be able to pay it back. But we can at least try by sharing with other people what we've learned from Srila Prabhupada. It's a big word, share, on the internet. I love it. It means preach. For us, preaching means to share what we've learned from Srila Prabhupada. And all these books have been distributed. 5 million books on Srila Prabhupada's original books, and another 500 million books have been distributed by BBT over the years. And where have these books gone? They've gone into people's homes.
Yes.
They're in people's homes, and they're all deities. And they're emanating in these people's homes. They're already there. So all we have to do is make some connections. How we do it, that we have to use our intelligence.
And so now today you've brought Krishna to Guelph, Ontario, into the home of Dan.
Yes, perfection at home. Perfection at home. That's it. This is a cultural movement. We have to let people take the idea into and introduce it in their private life. So I would like to see you do that, Dan. I want to see you make a little altar. I want to see you offer prasadam, offer a vegetarian food stuff, no garlic, no onions, offer to a picture of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and have Srila Prabhupada there and burn some incense and learn those 3 prayers to make it prasadam. And you can do that. You can spiritualize your home. You can spiritualize your home starting tonight, tomorrow, just to turn, because we need this to be a cultural movement. We have to plant seeds in people's homes. Now the books are already there in many places. Now you're there in your place, and you've got, Gora there. He's another plant. So now you've got it done. It's already, you're set. All you got to do is take it up yourself and have perfection at home. Perfection at home. That's what this movement is really about. It's about everybody taking this into their private life. This is not group therapy. This is individual self-realization, God realization. And when the individuals can get together on the proper occasion and chant together, that's very good. And have relatives and friends come over to their house and chant and have prasadam and read Krishna book and read Bhagavad Gita like we're doing now.
And that's real group therapy, right?
Absolutely. If you want to know what it is, it's real love. We've been reading that, Nectar of Instruction. What is love? Really love between people, not just between ourselves and God. That love's the highest love, of course. But between people, they can love each other by sharing prashadam, by sharing their realizations, by giving each other in charity, giving time to talk about Krishna, to talk about self-realization. So these different symptoms are the symptoms of love between human beings. And we can all do that. You can have your friends over, your relatives over, and share your prasadam with them. You can share Bhagavad Gita with them. You can chant with them. This is spiritual love, not material love. It's not lust, it's real love.
It depends how receptive they are.
Because everyone is loving Krishna. When this is done, is all loving Krishna, is loving Srila Prabhupada. You see, we can't go to Krishna directly. We have to go through Srila Prabhupada by following his instructions. And that way, Krishna will be pleased. He says, in proportion to one's service to my pure devotee, I consent to reveal myself. So it starts with service to the pure devotee. Just like for the Christians, it starts with service to Christ. Like with the Buddhists, it starts with service to Lord Buddha. With the Mohammedans, it starts with service to Lord Muhammad. So our God consciousness begins by starting to serve his servants.
Thank you very much. It's Dan's turn to read a paragraph. Can we just maybe try to finish the chapter? I'm not sure how many more paragraphs are in this chapter.
Where are we? Okay. It described all the different things he was doing.
Okay, somewhere the Lord was seen.
Yes,
performing.
that's true. That's where we are.
I think you missed it.
Okay, we're almost done. There we are. I think it's somewhere the Lord was seen performing different types. Okay, can you just say something, Rupanuga, about what are the demigods? Because Christians, or I don't know how Jewish people see this, but are demigods God, or what's the distinction between a demigod and God?
If you keep asking me to explain things, we're not going to finish this chapter.
I just wanted to give Dan a reference point.
Well, okay, but Dan can read.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dan.
Somewhere the Lord was seen performing different types of sacrifices to satisfy the demigods, who are only his qualitative expansions. Somewhere he was seen engaged in public welfare activities, establishing deep wells for the water supply, rest houses and gardens for unknown guests, and great monasteries and temples for saintly persons. These are some of the duties enjoined in the Vedas for householders for fulfillment of their material desires. Somewhere Krishna was found as a Kshatriya, king engaged in hunting animals in the forest and riding on a very beautiful Sindhi horse. According to Vedic regulations, the Kshatriya were allowed to kill prescribed animals on certain occasions, either to maintain peace in the forests or to offer the animals in the sacrificial fire. Kshatriyas are allowed to practice this killing art because they have to kill their enemies mercilessly to maintain peace in society. In one situation, the great sage Narada saw Lord Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead and master of mystic powers, acting as a spy by changing his usual dress in order to understand the motives of different citizens in the city and the palaces.
So this sounds like quite a how shall I say, an exception to the rule. Although devotees of Krishna don't kill living entities unnecessarily, it seems that there's no sin incurred, no karma that's created if one who is in the administrative or Kshatriya class has to kill an animal to practice their skills of protecting society, that there's no sin incurred for doing this, correct?
That's right. That's right. Srila Prabhupada said in the Gurukul boys being trained as Kshatriyas should be taken out on the hunt. And The animals they kill, they can eat if they want to. They don't have to. They can eat it if they want to. See, the whole idea is to train a boy who's got that propensity of a Kshatriya, that's his psychophysical nature, to learn how to kill.
Wow.
Because violence is required to maintain peace and order in this material world. It's not to be used to exploit people. We're talking about the ideal king or the ideal ruler. He rules for the people's benefit, not to exploit them or tax them to death. It's a different concept altogether. He's like a father, and he sees the citizens like his children. They're his dependents. He has to protect them, make sure they're engaged, that they're working according to their psychophysical nature. He has to keep peace. So there has to be a Kshatriya strength to maintain peace, because there's always dacoits, there's always ruffians, there's always gundas, and they're always around.
Dan has a little bit of, sorry, go ahead.
And even in fairly recent times, Shilpa was telling the story about the king of Jaipur. We go out once a year, and with a sword alone, engage a tiger in the forest and kill him, just with a sword. And that tiger would go out with great procession back to the city, and everyone would have a great festival and honor the tiger. And this king of Jaipur, this up to 100 or so years ago, he was doing that every year. In other words, think about it. The leader wants to have war. He has to lead the troops. He doesn't sit back in his office and make plans. He goes out and leads the troops. See? So he was so powerful and so strong, he took a tiger on with a sword. He didn't have a machine gun or a shotgun. He just had a sword. So by power, strength.
Dan led a tourist group to Jaipur.
Yeah.
As a tourist guide. Rupanuga, next paragraph, please.
Saint Narada saw all these activities of the Lord, who is the super soul of all living entities, but who played the role of an ordinary human being in order to manifest the activities of his internal potency. He was smiling within himself and began to address the Lord as follows. My dear Lord of all mystic powers, object of the meditation of great mystics, the extent of your mystic power is certainly inconceivable, even to mystics like Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. But by your mercy, because of my being always engaged in the transcendental loving service of your lotus feet, your Lordship has very kindly revealed to me the actions of your internal potency. My dear Lord, you are worshipable by all, and demigods and predominating deities of all 14 planetary systems are completely aware of your transcendental fame. Now, please give me your blessings so that I may be able to travel all over the universes, singing the glories of your transcendental activity.
I'm not sharing this right now. How do we get back? Oh, here. Connor, are you still with us? I'm not sure. How do I get back to the page?
Getting late.
Okay. Yeah. Nahush, did you want to read next?
I'm actually at a gas station, so better I don't.
Oh, okay. Yeah, and then sure.
Who's left?
I guess Chages is still not reading. So back to me, I guess. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Lord Krishna, replied to Narada as follows. My dear Narada, O sage among the demigods, you know that I am the supreme instructor and perfect follower of all religious principles, as well as the supreme enforcer of such principles. I am therefore personally executing such religious principles in order to teach the whole world how to act. My dear son, it is my desire that you not be bewildered by such demonstrations of my internal energy. What's he referring to right now? You'll not be bewildered. Oh, about that Krishna has expanded himself 16,000 times to be with each queen. I guess that's what he's referring to.
Yeah. Go ahead.
It's a short paragraph. The Supreme Personality of Godhead was engaged in his so-called household affairs in order to teach people how one can sanctify one's household life, although one may be attached to the imprisonment of material existence. Actually, one is obliged to continue the term of material existence because of household life. But the Lord, being very kind upon householders, demonstrated the path of sanctifying ordinary household life. Because Krishna is the center of all activities, the life of a Krishna conscious householder is transcendental to Vedic injunctions and is automatically sanctified then.
Thus Narada saw one single Krishna living in 16,000 palaces by his plenary expansions. Due to his inconceivable energy, he was visible in the palace of each and every individual queen. Lord Krishna has unlimited power, and Narada's astonishment was boundless upon observing again and again the demonstration of Lord Krishna's internal energy. Lord Krishna behaved by his personal example as if he were very much attached to the four principles of civilized life, namely religion, economic development, sense gratification, and salvation. These four principles of material existence are necessary for the spiritual advancements of human society. And although Lord Krishna had no need to do so, he exhibited his household activities so that people might follow in his footsteps for their own interest. Lord Krishna satisfied the sage Narada in every way. Narada was very much pleased by seeing the Lord's activity in Dvaraka, and thus he departed.
Rupanuga, Prabhu, you'll finish the chapter.
In narrating the activities of Lord Krishna in Dvaraka, Shukadeva Goswami explained to King Parikshit how Lord Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, descends on this material universe by the agency of his internal potency and personally exhibits the principles of which, if followed, can lead one to achieve the ultimate goal of life. All the queens in Dwarka, more than 16,000 in number, engaged their feminine attractive features in the transcendental service of the Lord by smiling and serving, and the Lord was pleased to behave with them exactly as a perfect husband enjoying household life. One should know definitely that such pastimes cannot be performed by anyone but Lord Sri Krishna. Lord Sri Krishna is the original cause of the creation, maintenance, and dissolution of the whole cosmic manifestation. Anyone who attentively hears the narrations of the Lord's pastimes in Dwarka or supports a preacher of the Krishna consciousness movement will certainly find it very easy to traverse the path of liberation and taste the nectar of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. And thus he will be engaged in his devotional service. The Sins of Bhaktivedanta Purport of the second volume, 14th chapter of Krishna, the great sage Narada visits the different homes of Lord Krishna. So I have an opinion that I think perhaps we may be chasing people away who tune in on this Zoom for the purpose of hearing the pastimes, and they tune in, they hear Rupanuga preaching, and that's not why they tuned in. They want to read the Krishna book, or they want to read Nectar Devotion, they don't want to hear me preaching. So I have a feeling that some people are tuning off and not joining because they think Rupanuga is taking over this thing, and he has no intention to do so. He's only doing what he's told, and he prefers to hear other people read rather than him preach.
Well, I'm not sure that everyone will be in agreement with you.
Well, I think enough, because we're just a few of us here now left talking. Yeah. Where'd everybody else go, or whatever happened? They're getting tired of listening to me.
Well, gee, that's a loaded question. I mean, this was something I was going to discuss with you in person. How do I express this? I personally, myself, I feel deeply privileged to be able to hear from you, because you absorb so much of Srila Prabhupada's association. You speak emphatically, and I don't have any issue with that, because you're just speaking from your heart and you're speaking with conviction. Some others may see it as dogmatic. I don't see it that way, but some may. Also, others have been attracted to other teachers. So, they may like to entertain or facilitate hearing from this one and that one, and et cetera. And we're primarily focused here on hearing from Srila Prabhupada and his books. So, I mean, you know, back in 1977, I don't think there would have been any issue for anybody to only hear from Srila Prabhupada. You know what I'm saying?
Mm.
I just wanted to say, for the sake of Dan, because these words, these terms were used, acharya. Acharya means practice. So one who's an acharya is one who teaches by their example. They practice what they preach. So, because he was referring to, Rupanuga was referring to Muhammad as being an acharya, Christ as being an acharya. So these are people who taught by their example. And he made reference to absolute truth. Absolute truth with a capital A and T, according to Vedanta Sutra, is defined as that by which everything is emanating from, that by whom everything is being maintained, and ultimately that by whom everything will be dissolved, only to be recreated again. So it's a you could say, Rupanuga Prabhu, that the term absolute truth is like a synonym for the Supreme Personality of Godhead or the Supreme Lord, correct?
Yes, and also what he speaks. So those incarnations, Muhammad and Lord Jesus Christ, they and Lord Buddha, they were preaching absolute truth according to the capacity of the people they were preaching to. They didn't change anything. They just preached according to their audience.
Mm-hmm. Like with Moses, he preached the 10 Commandments, right?
Yeah. But you see, now people have become very sophisticated and very educated, and they're very skeptical. And so the times have changed, and people are suffering so much. Right now, the people are suffering so much. So this philosophy is suited for them, providing people are willing to give it a listening, a fair hearing.
You said these books are deities.
Yes.
So a deity of Krishna means a form of Krishna.
They're literary incarnations.
Mm.
Literary incarnations, what Srila Prabhupada described. He was asked, are these books, like, are they, he said, they're deities. They're literary incarnations. The Bhagavatam is a literary incarnation of Krishna, God, in a book form. The Bhagavad Gita is a literary incarnation. It is an incarnation of Krishna, and the words in the Bhagavad Gita are not different than Krishna because he spoke those words, and they're not different from him. So they have to be understood as literary incarnations, and they should be treated with respect.
Dan is interested to get a Bhagavad. He asked me tonight if I had a Bhagavad Gita with me. If I don't have one in my van, I'm going to bring him one.
Yes.
So thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed hearing what you had to say.
Well,
Me too.
Again, really preaching really boils down to one-to-one, and
Yeah.
the hearing is the speaking and the hearing, the congenial relationship. But there are other persons listening. I'm not so sure they have the same opinion. But anyway, this is just an example of a one-to-one, questions and answers. That's what it is. Questions and answers.
And the answers are not just our mundane opinion. These answers are authoritatively spoken by the great saints and sages going back thousands of years.
Well, I do have a question to ask, and this is in regards of preaching. The question is, I know we know the concept that we're not these bodies, we're spirit soul. And while preaching, sometimes I tend to rely on the bodily conceptions of life to try to help make people understand. Like I might get into a political conversation with somebody, and then dovetail it to say, okay, so there's always changing. What is the real purpose of life? Or I might get into like a cultural conversation, like I'm Indian, for example. So this is coming from India. You should value it, etc. But it's but I feel that's a shaky foundation. I feel like the real preaching should be direct Krishna consciousness, in the sense of, Harinam, Sankirtan, book distribution, and like in the sense, like, directly speaking about Krishna as he is, as his, his Supreme Personality of Godhead. We're not these bodies, and coming with full force of this is the philosophy, so that it accommodates to everybody. And I think my preaching can be modified. I just wanted to make that comment, sort of ask that question too. But I'm learning a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, Nahush. And please try to bring others. You've got hundreds and hundreds of devotees in Michigan there, Detroit, Ypsilanti, Michigan, Farmington Hills. I mean, we have the Rupanuga Prabhu with us, who sat at Prabhupada's lotus feet nonstop for 2 years, 1966 to 68. Started the first preaching program at the University of Buffalo, helped to start the Bhaktivedanta Institute, helped to start the, whose idea was it to start the In God We Trust political party, Rupanuga Prabhu? Was that Prabhupada's idea, or was that your idea?
Well, it was Balavanta's idea to preach politically, to run for office as a platform. Srila Prabhupada liked that very much. And then the idea came of having a party, having more people running for office. And I think I was kind of behind that one a bit. And I had a different name, what to call the party. And Srila Prabhupada said he approved of having a party. We'll call it the In God We Trust Party for Purified Leaders. And then I wrote to Srila Prabhupada to give some idea of the cost for doing something. So the problem was that to have tax exemption, recognition by the IRS, and so forth, so on, we could not engage in political things. And if the devotees that were going to be involved were also too closely involved with activities at ISKCON. So that was a risk we decided not to take. And also there's expense that would take away too much from book distribution. So Srila Prabhupada decided to cancel the idea. I mean, I presented all the details to him in a letter so that he could decide, to explain, I explained to him what we were planning to do. So he stopped that part. We didn't go and have a regular political party because of the distraction would be from the main purpose of the movement, and also the money, and also the risk that someone may use it, as a means to interfere with the movement's ability to be free from taxation and to be
our charitable status.
Yes, yeah. So it was not practical. So we didn't do it. But it was Srila Prabhupada's name, In God We Trust Party for Purified Leaders, and that's really the problem. Purified leaders.
Yes, today's leaders are definitely not purified.
Yeah, so purified leaders. That's the real problem. That's why we're in such a world in such a mess. But as I pointed out before, the karma was coming. We simply cannot go on with this slaughterhouses all over the planet and can expect to continue and have prosperity and peace. It won't happen. So this reaction is coming back from Mother Nature. How long it goes on, to what extent, is up to the Supreme Lord. Because ultimately he's sanctioning what's going on. Ultimately he's sanctioning the demonic personalities who are in charge. They're allowed to do so because that's Kali Yuga, and because this is what happens in Kali Yuga. How long they have the license remains to be seen. They appear, in my opinion, to be overstepping their license by their free will, but that remains to be seen. I think they're taking it too far, because if it starts interfering with Lord Chaitanya's movement, that's taking it too far.
Which are you referring to spiritual leaders now, or the materialistic leaders?
No, I'm saying whether only leaders are materialistic leaders. I mean, they're the only ones. There's no spiritual leadership on this planet.
From a superficial point of view, people are seeing that either Putin is evil, or Biden is evil, etc. But these people are just, although they are acting in an evil way, they're just agents of people's karma, correct?
They are all under the control of the modes of material nature. They're not free. They're all under the control of material nature, either goodness, passion, or ignorance. Everyone who's not practicing devotional service is under the control of the modes of material nature. And the modes of material nature right now are acting according to the natural karmic laws. Eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. And now humanity is reaping the results of centuries of slaughterhouses all over the planet's surface, killing billions every year in innocent creatures. This is against the laws of nature, even in Kali Yuga. So that's the problem. People don't understand that for every cow killed, 8 people have to share the karma. So that really practically involves the whole population.
The one who raised the animal, the one who kills the animal, the one who transports the animal, the person who packages it at the store, the person who purchases it at the store, and the family members who all consume it. They're all conspirators.
Yeah, it's all 8 of them. I don't, there's 8 of them. You can figure that out. But the point is, they all share the karma. So that spreads it.
That's horrendous.
Even the child is eating his smashed whipped peas with little flakes of pork in it. He's implicated. Everybody who escapes. See? So it's very much spread all around.
And it's been normalized.
Huh?
It's been normalized.
Yeah. But it's not normal. According to the laws of nature, it's not normal to kill innocent creatures. The human beings do not have that right to do that.
Unless you're an Eskimo and you live up in the Arctic or something.
Well, if your karma puts you in a place where you have to chew on whale blubber or something, well, that's your karma. But people are stepping out of line simply for the taste of the tongue. You can live on vegetables. The gorilla is a vegetarian. The elephant is a vegetarian. The giraffe is a vegetarian. The hippopotamus is a vegetarian. All the most powerful animals on earth are vegetarians. So the human being simply has this desire for blood. If he takes ghee, which is a transformation of blood, without killing the cow, he'd be happy. But no, he has to have the blood. He doesn't know about the ghee. And then even if he takes the ghee and he eats vegetables cooked in ghee, he's still sinful because he's not offering it. He's eating only sin. So you see, no matter what, because people have no conception of the purpose of life, which is to follow and surrender to the orders of the Lord. That's the purpose of human life, which sets it separately from animals. They can't even conceive of God. What to speak of serve God or understand the universe. Animals, they have no idea they're on the Earth planet. What to speak of being in the universe. They're in complete ignorance. But human form of life, we can understand all these things. And we can understand where it all came from. We can understand what the purpose of life is. We can understand how to suit that purpose, how to behave according to that purpose. That's what human life has developed consciousness for, to become conscious of God. Not just conscious of what we eat, conscious of what we see, conscious of the car, conscious of the job, conscious of the family, but to become conscious of God. As much as we're conscious of everything else, why not become conscious of God? Because that's what human consciousness is allowed to do.
Because now we have intellectuals like Yuval Harari, who speaks out defiantly that these stories that are made up about God this is all fabricated to keep us in a state of guilt. And
Because these people, the atheistic personalities have the control of the media and the educational system. And so therefore they're indoctrinating. The people don't hear the other side. They don't hear any objections. They don't hear any challenge to that. That's all they get in different ways, from different angles. So they're trained, they're educated in a certain way. That's why Srila Prabhupada founded this educational institution, a cultural alternative to the present paradigm of eat, drink, and be merry, for to marry, you may die. A cultural alternative to that, and an educational institution. It was a protest. His movement was a protest. I have to read this real quick here. Srila Prabhupada, this is from Adi Leela 17141. In the present day, people all over the world may join together in the Krishna consciousness movement and protest against the present degraded governments of the world's godless societies, which are based on all kinds of sinful activities. Srimad Bhagavatam states that in the age of Kali, thieves, rogues, and fourth-class people who have neither education nor culture capture the seats of government to exploit the citizens. This is a symptom of Kali Yuga that has already appeared. People cannot feel secure about their lives and property, yet the so-called governments continue, and government ministers get fat salaries, although they are unable to do anything good for society. Hate speech, they'll say that's hate speech. That they'll say that's anti-government. You see, Srila Prabhupada said they may accuse me of being against the government, but I'm simply comparing the present situation with Shastra. The only remedy for such conditions is to enhance the Sankirtan movement under the banner of Krishna consciousness and protest against the sinful activities of the world's government. Now, that's real protest. Not simply protest limitations to our sense gratification by these lockdowns and forced vaccinations and all this stuff. But the real problem is this: sinful activities of the world's governments. It's misleading people. The blind leading the blind into a ditch. Here's Srila Prabhupada. That's Srila Prabhupada's statement. I mean, that's revolutionary. But that's the truth.
Go ahead.
The people say, Rupanuga, he's so, like Srila Prabhupada said to me, go on preaching in your enthusiastic way. And I'm going to do it. I don't care what anybody says. I'm going to preach with the same emphasis that I heard from Srila Prabhupada. You listen to his lectures. He doesn't calmly say this and that and so on. He really is strong. He makes a point.
Mm-hmm. I want to play some lectures for Dan to hear how Prabhupada speaks.
You listen, play for him some of the worst ones, some of the first ones from 1966, I will. Where Srila Prabhupada is recruiting. He's really strong. He's recruiting help to help him establish his movement.
Mm-hmm. I was having a discussion briefly. We didn't get very far today, but I was just commenting on how some of the big people who are in control facilitate abortion. And I was receiving a little bit of resistance that not so sure necessarily that abortion is a bad thing. And although we didn't really get into it, I would imagine one of the standard arguments would be that a woman should have the right to do what she wants with her body. Would you say that would be one of the standard arguments, Dan?
One of the standards, yeah.
Yeah. So she has, but my response to that is, okay, so a woman has a right to do what she wants to her body, but she won't get to choose her karma because there's a karmic reaction for that activity.
The spirit soul in that body is alive. It may be dependent while in the womb, and it's dependent when it comes out of the womb. The baby comes out, the baby won't survive without parents, without someone to feed the baby, without providing shelter for the baby. So the baby is dependent. Is not independent ever. He has to grow under protection of mother and father. So in the womb of the mother, the baby is already showing independence. At 7 months old, he starts kicking. And Shastra explains what it feels like to be in the womb. What the child, the fetus is thinking. What the fetus is experiencing is described in the Bhagavatam in detail, what it feels like to be in the womb.
The child, the fetus is praying to get out, and when it gets out, it promises, I will worship the Lord, so I won't have to go through this again.
At 7 months, the child becomes conscious, and he starts moving. And how would you like to be tied up in the darkness and little things biting on you, and you don't know what you can hardly move, and you wake up? What do? You start moving. So the child of 7 months becomes conscious and starts moving, kicking. Any mother will tell you that.
So what has the government decided that it's legal to be able to terminate the life of the fetus? Do they have
right now there's a law that's in effect in one state that a child that survives abortion, a baby that survives abortion, may be killed up to 2 or 3 weeks later. That's called murder. But because look, Srila Prabhupada says this: there are always rogues and thieves in human society, and as soon as a weak government is unable to execute its duties, these rogues and thieves come out to do their business. Thus, the entire society becomes a hell unfit for gentlemen to live in. There's an immediate need for a good government, a government by the people with Krishna consciousness. So when there's a weak government, the thieves and rascals come out of the woodwork.
Mm-hmm.
And they actually infiltrate the government.
But the government may actually be the rogues and thieves themselves.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. Over a period of time, governments evolve. So anyway, for the people, by the people, that's all right. Srila Prabhupada says, as long as they learn to be Krishna conscious. It says here, if people, look, the Krishna conscious movement is not a sentimental religious movement. It is a movement for the information or for the reformation of all the anomalies of human society. If people take to it seriously, discharging this duty scientifically, as ordered by Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, the world will see peace and prosperity instead of being confused and hopeless under useless governments.
Mm-hmm.
That is describing the present world situation, if I ever heard it. And this is written, this was in 19, Adi Leela, chapter 17. So that's sometime after it was printed in 75. But it's describing the present perfectly.
We have our work cut out for us.
Yeah, we can't, it looks like it's pretty hopeless. I mean, it's pretty uphill battle. It looks like it's a real uphill battle, but guess what? We got Krishna on our side. We got Lord Chaitanya on our side. We got the Super Soul on our side. We got the Bhagavad Gita on our side. We got Bhagavatam on our side. We got the Chaitanya Chaitanya on our side. We got Lord Chaitanya on our side.
No shortage.
We are not bereft of allies.
Mm-hmm. Dan is working on a book right now, and he's trying to be in the spirit of Arjuna. He said to me, it's a book against the control of the pharmaceutical or the psychiatry.
Basically against psychiatry.
and drugs,
Mhm.
and
With nuance.
with
You know,
nuance.
it's not a, basically, the official book of psychiatry doesn't acknowledge that spiritual experiences exist. So it's a lot of what they're calling mental illness is spiritual experiences being misdiagnosed, I think. So, yeah.
Their solution is done through drug administration and through recall of past phobias or whatever that's driving a person to behave without reason. And their idea is for them to come to consciousness, to be exposed, to be dealt with, and that way people will become free. What they don't seem to understand is that the subconscious is filled to the brim with experiences from previous lives that frequently interpose themselves upon present life and cause great disturbance. And people are suffering from things they did in their past life. For example, if a person now is afraid of water, just can't learn how to swim, why? Well, they drowned in their past life. Okay, the psychiatrist will never uncover that.
Yeah.
Instead, he will try, and to help him do it, he will administer all kinds of drugs.
Because they think that life comes from chemicals instead of life comes from life. They're thinking everything is determined by what kind of chemicals you got going on.
And
right?
they control by chemical, they can do that. But Shilpabha's answer to that was, we have a different process. Our process is one of purification and transcendence. So we leave the material plane behind. We leave the past behind. Because a subtle body, the same one we've had since we've been in this universe, is filled with all the experiences from our previous lives. There's no way that we're going to be able to unravel the influences it has on our private life, what to speak of the subtle karmas that determine why we took birth in this family, why we took birth in this country, why this is our sex orientation, why we were born here, and that all that cannot be understood by modern science. Therefore, the easiest way to deal with it is to transcend it. And when you transcend it, you cut yourself off from its influence permanently. It doesn't rear its ugly head when some trigger comes to get you back to it again. No. Purification of the present mind and consciousness is the secret. The subconscious is always going to be there, and it's always filled with all kinds of unpleasant and pleasant things. It can never be figured out. It can never be unraveled completely. So if a person engages in the transcendental meditation of Krishna consciousness, then he may purify his mind and intelligence and his ego, his identity. He won't identify himself in such a limited way as he does now with his body and his birth, and expand his consciousness. Krishna consciousness is consciousness expansion, real expansion. So Srila Prabhupada said, when he heard about Jung, called Jung, who was a friend of contemporary of Freud, but different than Freud. So Jung, he liked Jung. He said Jung is the most sensible. You told me about. He was being told by different philosophers, and so Jung was one of them. And he said actually he's the most sensible person that you've told me about. And he had been told about a number of different philosophers and people like that. But he said, but our practice is different. We don't go and try to unravel the causes of these. We simply engage in a transcendental process, devotional service, and free ourselves from the influences of the past. That's why Bhaktivinoda Thakur's act in times that are with thee and progress thou shalt fall. Because you act in times with me means to engage in Krishna consciousness. Never mind what you did before. It's all going to be forgiven if you're serious. The karma that you're carrying with you right now will not be allowed to bloom. It will not come to fruition if you engage seriously in devotional service. That's one of the side effects, is that one of the side effects of devotional service is your previous karma. You're free from your previous karma, or it is reduced to nil. Like cutting your finger in the kitchen instead of your throat.
But the intensity of your devotional service has to be strong enough that it overpowers our tendencies to want to engage in intoxication, illicit sex, and so forth, correct?
Yeah, the higher taste has to be there. Otherwise, the lower taste prevails. The higher taste has to come from the practice. It will develop automatically because it's our nature. We're simply uncovering a higher taste that we already have eternally. It's covered over. So it's nothing new. It's just reviving who we are.
Mm-hmm.
It's not creating a new person. It's not creating any. It's just reviving. It's like flame in a match. The flame in a match is potential, but if you strike it on the right surface, it will catch fire. So everybody has potential Krishna consciousness. It has to be struck on the right surface, which is chanting and reading and hearing and association. That's the surface that has to be struck. And then the match will flame. You can strike a match in a lot of different surfaces and it won't catch fire. But if you strike it on the side of the matchbox, it's going to catch fire because it's the right surface.
So the more we can be situated in the mode of goodness, then it's easier to catch fire with Krishna consciousness. But if we're indulging in intoxication, illicit sex, meat eating, like that, then we become like wet wood. It's difficult.
Even the drunkard, if he thinks Krishna's the taste in alcohol, that's a step in the right direction. The process is so merciful. See? But I'm saying even that person, and they have a long way to go, but still that's the right direction. So that Krishna consciousness is so benevolent and so all pervasive that it can affect everyone. The best thing is to take to the process itself. You see, many people have joined the movement and follow Srila Prabhupada who had all kinds of nefarious backgrounds and activities before. All kinds of things they don't even want to repeat or remember. But somehow or another, they're on the right track. Because Lord Chaitanya's mercy is very, very strong. And Srila Prabhupada's compassion is inconceivable.
As you said, we've got a lot of blessings to count.
We got a lot of blessings to realize. We should realize these blessings. That's really every day we should realize how fortunate we are. And then we will be more inclined to surrender and more inclined to stay away from our past that was not good for us. We have to think about it, how fortunate we are. It's inconceivable. I mean, once in the day of what Brahma, every 4,320,000 times 1,000 solar years is once in that time, Krishna appears, and that was just 5,000 years ago. That wasn't even a trillionth of a second, practically. It was just like yesterday. And we have his written words. We have what he said right in front of us. And it's amazing. We have what God himself said.
Like Prabhupada said, if you're not happy in Krishna consciousness, then you're a rascal because it means you're not practicing, right?
Yeah, it means you don't realize how fortunate you are to have that practice. And don't take it for granted that you don't think it's something normal. The magic has to be maintained.
Mm-hmm. And that's why we call you, so that we can have this association to help keep the fire burning. So we'll do this again on Friday. We'll be discussing the Nectar of Instruction, which is a literature composed 530 years ago by Lord Chaitanya's chief associate, Srila Rupa Goswami. I believe we're on verse number 9, which talks about the glories of Govardhan Hill.
I don't know what the percentage of attendance is on your list. You have a long list of persons who are, are able to connect. So if all these discussions are successful, I would opine that your attendance should increase.
Well, normally on a day like today, I would have reminded many people, please come, we're starting at 7:30. But because I was at the dentist today here in the city of Guelph, I couldn't remind anyone. So smaller turnout today. I hope after a while people would catch on and remember, but it seems a lot depend on being reminded.
Also, I think devotees just like to read. They don't like so much discussion.
I can't speak for everybody. I know myself, I like to hear elaborations, but there are some who just like to read. It's true. It's a mixed crowd. So Krishna willing, we'll see you Friday evening then, same time.
They think it's better to hear from a liberated spirit soul like Srila Prabhupada and Krishna himself than to hear from a conditioned soul like me. I think that's a good choice.
That's your humility.
No, that's a fact.
There's that, but it's meaningful to hear spontaneous words that relate to the situation. When there's question and answer, that's very powerful, which you can't get from a book in the same way.
So did we finish?
Yeah, we finished chapter. So please accept my respectful obeisances. Panchakopa, Trubhyascha, Grapasindubhya Evacha, Patitanang Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. See you Friday.